All right, let's talk about something we've all been through. You're trying to get back on track with a goal, right? Could be the gym, your job, anything. And that little voice in your head starts up when you decide it's time for a reset. And you know what it almost always says? It starts with just two little words. Yep, I failed. It feels like such a simple diagnosis, doesn't it? But man, is it powerful. That one little belief, it shapes everything you do next. And the tough part? It usually sets you up to go in completely the wrong direction. But what if that whole story you're telling yourself is just wrong? What if failure isn't even the right word for what happened to you? Because honestly, getting this diagnosis right, that is absolutely the most important first step. So, when you think you've failed, what's the natural reaction? Well, it's usually some form of punishment, right? You start to believe there's something wrong with you, a flaw in your character that needs fixing. And so you decide the only way forward is through brute force and discipline. And this usually looks like a personal boot camp, you know? You're going to do harder workouts, follow way stricter rules, and you really let that harsh inner voice just scream at you. But here's the thing, that whole approach is built on a shaky foundation. And because of that, it almost never, ever works long term. Okay, so let's fix that diagnosis right now. Because this is where we get to a really important idea, a distinction that can totally change how you get back on track with anything. Listen to me on this one. You didn't fail. Seriously, that story you've been playing on a loop in your head, it's just not accurate. You drifted. Now that is a much better word for what most of us actually go through. See, it wasn't some big, dramatic moment of giving up. It was something quieter. It was a drift. So what do I mean by behavioral drift? Well, think about it. It's not some big declaration. It's this quiet, slow, almost sneaky process of just moving away from your own standards. It happens when life gets crazy busy, when you're juggling a million other things. And here's the key. It happens without you ever making a single conscious choice to just quit. Just look at the difference side by side. Failure? That's an event. It's a clear decision, I'm out. But drift is a process. It's missing one workout, then another. It's telling yourself, I'll get back to it next week. It's slowly, quietly letting those standards slide. One is a hard stop, the other is a slow fade. And that's why just trying to pump yourself up with more motivation or more willpower is the wrong fix. You can't solve a process problem with just emotion. No, you solve it by realigning the system that let you drift in the first place. Okay, now here's an idea that might sound a little backward at first. Drift is actually way more common in people who are super capable and strong. I know, it sounds like a paradox, but when you really dig into it, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. Capable people, folks who've been successful before, they have this deep down belief, I know how to do this. And that confidence is great, but it can also be a blind spot. It lets them ignore the first little warning signs of drift. They tell themselves, I'm just swamped right now. I'll get it sorted out next month. Sound familiar? So the real enemy here, it isn't laziness. It's not that you stopped caring. It's a state that we can call bandwidth saturation. And that's just a fancy way of saying that all the pressures of life piling up one on top of the other have completely exhausted your ability to be consistent. Your tank is just empty. And these pressures are so real, right? Especially when you hit midlife. Your job demands more of you. Family obligations are pulling you in a dozen different directions. Maybe an old injury makes you a little gun-shy, and just constant stress is tanking your recovery. This isn't about making excuses. It's about understanding the context. So this is the big takeaway for this section. Strong people don't drift because they stop caring. They drift because they're carrying more. It's that simple. Your load got heavier. All right, so let's tie this all together. When you call this drift failure, you automatically reach for that punishment strategy we talked about earlier. And that's where you get this huge mismatch, especially as we get older. You go right back to the old playbook, don't you? Some crazy training plan, a super aggressive diet, these all or nothing rules. And that drill sergeant in your head is just yelling the whole time. It's a strategy of pure force, all designed to punish what you think was a failure. But here's the problem. That playbook was written for you from 10, maybe 20 years ago. Back then, you could recover from anything. You had way less stress, and you had this massive margin for error. But now, that same tough guy strategy just slams right into the realities of midlife. Your sleep, your joints, your hormones, it just doesn't work anymore. And what happens? You get stuck in this vicious cycle. You try the punishment plan, it completely backfires because your body can't handle it like it used to. And what do you tell yourself? See, I knew it, I failed again, I just can't stick with anything. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, all started by using the wrong game plan. Okay, so enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. How do we build a much more effective way forward? It's all about dropping that punishment mindset and picking up a new, way more accurate story. We're shifting from trying to fix a broken character to instead realigning a system that's just under a lot of strain. And this right here is the absolute core of it. The old story you told yourself, that failure implies a problem with your character, but the true story, the accurate one, it says that drift implies a problem with your context. See the difference? One is about who you are. The other is about the situation you're in. And that, my friends, makes all the difference in the world. Because your context, your schedule, the systems you use, your environment, all of that can be changed. Your character, it was never the problem to begin with, so it doesn't need fixing. And just like that, you shift from feeling shame to building a real strategy. So I want to leave you with a question to chew on. Think back for a minute. When did your drift really begin? And hey, no judgment here. Don't try to justify it. Just get a clear picture of what was going on in your life back then. Because getting that clarity, that is the first real step towards making a change that sticks. And from now on, I want you to try on this new sentence. This isn't some fluffy, feel-good affirmation. This is corrective language. It's a tool. It gives you an accurate diagnosis for the past, and it sets a really clear, strategic path for the future. Say it with me. I didn't fail. I drifted, and I'm choosing to realign.